Man, there's so many options out there on the handgun market. It's just hard to pick out what you want, like polymer frame, metal frame, striker fired, hammer fired. It'd be great if there was a video where people maybe compared those things and we could get an idea of how they differ or the same. Oh wait, we're at the range. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Classic Firearms. I'm Matt, and it's a great, beautiful day here at the range. We're going to do some live fire for y'all. What we have in front of you here is a variety of Smith & Wesson handguns. Now these are all surplus. They're law enforcement trade-in, so you're going to see some wear on these. But one of the great things about working at Classic is the fact that we can get our hands on some of these older trade-in surplus style firearms and actually, take a walk down memory lane. These things hold a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people, and they're still perfectly serviceable firearms out there. So sometimes it can be a really great deal to find a special price on something surplus that's still going to be just as effective as something that's new. Now, when we looked at these Smith & Wesson handguns, we saw that there was a cool variety of both hammer-fired and striker-fired handguns. So we thought we'd come out here to the range and give y'all a little bit of a demonstration on some of the differences between hammer-fired pistols and striker-fired pistols, going back through the history of what Smith & Wesson has offered. Now, a hammer-fired pistol is, as the name kind of implies, something that fires with an exterior or sometimes interior hammer, but there's a hammer that comes up and strikes a firing pin. Now there's kind of three different categories, I would say, of hammer-fired pistols, which is single action only, double action only, and single action double action. For single action only pistol, it only fires in single action. So what does that mean? Well, single action means that the trigger will only release the hammer. Something's going to have to cock the hammer for you. Now, a lot of times, that's going to be your thumb for that first shot, but then the slide reciprocating is going to cock that hammer for each additional shot. But every shot's going to have that single action, very crisp, very short trigger pull. A single action double action pistol, the first shot can be shot double action. So when you pull the trigger, it will cock the hammer back and then it will break and release. But then after that, again, that slide reciprocation is going to keep cocking the hammer for you. So every subsequent shot after the first is going to have a single action trigger pull. Some people like that because they can carry with the hammer down, and there's kind of more of effort to take that first shot, so it's more of an intentional act. But then you still have that crisp single action trigger pull on all those other shots. Other people really don't like it because of the fact that the trigger pull is different from the first shot to the second shot, and maybe that means that you weren't quite ready with that second shot. So it's definitely one of those things that different people prefer different styles of hammer-fired pistol. Double action only just means that it's always going to shoot in double action. When the slide reciprocates, it does push the hammer back, but it's going to come right back forward as the slide moves forward, and so every shot's going to be double action. With striker-fired pistols, there isn't really that distinction like there is with hammer-fired pistols. So because when you're firing that gun, it's actually using a striker assembly. It gets cocked the first time you load around. It basically stays cocked inside of the slide, and then every shot's going to be the same. Now the downside to a striker-fired pistol is, in general, the trigger pull is not going to be as nice. When you talk about that very crisp single action trigger pull of a single action only or single action double action, you're just not going to get that kind of trigger pull out of a striker-fired pistol. But again, if you think about this in like a self-defense kind of scenario, you don't necessarily want the lightest of trigger pulls. You want to make sure it's an intentional action that you're utilizing the firearm. So I think that's a good idea of the difference and how they feel. But we're going to go down range now. We're going to take some shots with each one of these, and I'm going to give you some feedback about my experience with shooting them, and hopefully this informs you guys some as far as what type of pistol you might be looking for. All right, guys, so we're going to start off here with the Smith & Wesson 459. So this is a metal framed hammer fired pistol. And again, we're going to kind of see how the features of this feel in comparison to some of the others. Quick note, the magazine this one came with is unfortunately crimped at 10 rounds. So, that's kind of a little bit unfortunate, but we're going to go ahead and test it out. So all right, and that's it. That's done with. So, again, I really like hammer-fired pistols because of that nice crisp trigger pull, but we're going to compare it to some of the others and see if this one's better or worse. All right, guys, so this is the Smith & Wesson 5903. In fact, it's the TSW So it's a tactical model. You can definitely see it's got the rail down here. All of the pistols we're shooting today are 9mm, and this one has the full capacity, 15 rounds. So let's take a look at this. All right. So I like this one maybe a little bit better than the 459, but we still have some other options. Let's check it out. All right, guys, so we've got the Smith & Wesson 469, and I just want to show you all three of the hammer-fired pistols we have today have a magazine safety. So if there's no magazine in it, and we're just gonna, be very safe, but when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. Now, they all also do have safeties that are decockers. So if you were to engage the safety, you see it does put the hammer down. Now, I wanted to kind of compare it to the one we shot just a minute ago, the 459, because they're very similar pistols, but the 469, the one we're about to shoot, is like a compactor version. So definitely something that would be like really cool as a concealed carry piece or something. But again, just giving you some information here about the different pistols and kind of my observations as we're going through this. We're gonna go ahead and load up here. All right, we're gonna try this again. Maybe a little bit more felt recoil or snappiness since it's smaller, but let's take a look. All right, and there we go. Now this one I believe only had a 12 round magazine instead of the 15 of the larger framed one. But that's our hammer fired pistols. So again, the benefits of it, a little bit heavier weight because it's got that metal frame and the really nice trigger pull because of the single action shots with the hammer fired pistol. Let's compare that to the polymer framed striker fired pistols, and we'll take a look at those. All right, guys, we're here with the first of our striker fired pistols, the SW9C. And we did mention that these are used pistols, so we just want to show you, like, there's definitely some wear on here, on the slide and the frame, probably from a holster wear. This isn't any scratching or anything, that's just tape residue. But that's going to be okay. Sometimes something can be kind of gently loved. It's still going to be a really good functioning pistol for us. Let's take a look how it compares to the hammer fired pistols. Well, sometimes you run into that. Let's take a look here. All right, so it appears this pistol may have some mechanical issues that's preventing proper operation. We're gonna just hold that downrange for a minute. That's unfortunately, sometimes you could run into that. This pistol seems to have a mechanical issue, so we're not gonna be able to fire this one, but we do have some others that we're gonna take a look at. So why don't we go grab the next one. All right, guys, so we've got the Smith & Wesson SD9 VE. And so this is was a really popular Smith & Wesson semi-automatic. In fact, you can just tell by looking at it, it's very similar to other polymer framed striker fired pistols out there. What with the takedown lever and everything. We'll just, we'll leave that alone, but let's go ahead and see if we can get this one down there on paper per se. All right, a little bit of a hiccup there. So that might have been a little bit of limp wristing or something. Obviously, striker fired pistols are kind of sensitive to limp wristing. So that may have been what caused our malfunction there. But again, feels very good, very much like a lot of the most popular pistols out there on the market that are polymer framed striker fired. But we've got one more to go, so let's take a look at our last pistol. All right, guys, so this is the Smith & Wesson SW99. I think it's probably the one I find most attractive, although certainly there's not a lot of texture there on the grip. It does have that cool mag release there on the trigger guard. So we're going to take a look at this one and see how we feel it compares to the other pistols. All right, I thought it felt really good. It's got this nice big palm swell here in the back, and I felt it felt really good in my hand while shooting it. One of the things I will say as a comparison between these pistols and the hammer fired pistols is that while the triggers aren't as nice, the sights are typically way better, at least in the examples that I've looked at today. So, these striker fired pistols have these nice kind of high, blocky sights, very typical of what you can expect a lot of modern pistols to have, versus the hammer fired pistols. They had kind of smaller, lower sights. These are definitely something that gets you a lot better kind of sight acquisition and alignment as opposed to those very small rounded sights that you see on those. So why don't we go back up to the table, we'll get some final closing thoughts before we let you go. All right, guys, so what did we learn here today about the differences between striker-fired and hammer-fired pistols? Well, I think one of the big differences would be what your intended purpose of it is. If you're going out for target shooting, or you're going out for plinking or enjoyment, then maybe the hammer-fired pistol would be something that's a little bit more up your alley. It's got that nice light trigger pull, and the extra weight might help keep you a little bit steadier. If you're going to carry this as like a concealed carry pistol, maybe the lighter weight polymer frame of the striker-fired pistol would be more advantageous, because obviously you're carrying it way more often than you're actually going to be shooting it. So just the lighter weight might make it easier to keep this with you on your day-to-day basis. But certainly I think that there are advantages and disadvantages to both. Now, one thing I do want to mention about these pistols is that these are actually imported. So they have import marks here at the bottom of the frame. They do try to keep them kind of inconspicuous, but conspicuous, I should say. But you know, so it's interesting that even though we think of Smith & Wesson as an American company, that these pistols were imported back into the United States, which indicates that maybe the law enforcement division that they were, you know, being used by was overseas. In fact, I did notice also on this this pistol that there is some language here in what appears to be Spanish or maybe possibly Portuguese. So it's possible that, you know, these are looking from foreign use. Also, the SW99, one of the things I thought was interesting was that really kind of unique magazine release. And then I saw here marked on the frame that, you know, this was actually a frame made by Walther, which makes sense. You know, this made sense as a kind of a Walther-esque feature. But, you know, as far as which pistol you should go with, I mean, one of my biggest things I would always recommend to people is before you buy a pistol, plenty of ranges allow you to rent handguns and you can test fire them. And really, I think you should do your homework, go out and try a couple, put your hands on them, make sure that they feel good in your hands, you're able to easily manipulate them and they feel comfortable. So I think it's really more of just your personal preference. Certainly this is kind of the more modern technology, but there's a lot of advantages to hammer-fired pistols as well. So in conclusion, I mean, they're both fun to shoot. They're both fun to get out to the range with, have a little fun. And there's kind of a cost benefit to either one of them. So whichever one you choose, definitely get out there, make sure to practice. You know, this thing is not going to be worth anything for your personal defense or home protection unless you're confident with it. So make sure you get out there, get some possible training or practice with it.